All right. Welcome to episode 308 of Psykos Platters, always powered by coffee each and every time. I just got this Peanuts mug last week. I found it at a flea market type thing with some 45s. This episode, I'm just going to warn you now, is probably going to be lengthy, okay? And I will completely understand if you guys don't want to hang for this one, alright? But I'm going to try to be honest. I'm going to try to show you some vinyl, you know, in and out of the story. The episode will probably be entitled How I Feel About John Lennon. And this is so slapdash, okay? It's just, you know, I know that right now it is December 14th, 2020. I've been bouncing this around for a few days, but I came across some videos that I want to talk about later in the episode that relate to Lennon, okay? And I just still cannot believe that it's been 40 years. 40 years. I think, out of all honesty, that I mean, I'm 53. Okay, I'll be 54 in September. So, two musical things stand out for me that I can remember, okay? And one was, do you remember where you were or what you were doing when Elvis Presley died in '77? And yes, I can. And then, of course, the other moment was, do you remember where you were or what you were doing when John Lennon was killed? I was 13 years old. But when I heard the announcement through the news, it was the Chicago news. I was watching it, and it came on, and you'd think like I knew the man, okay? The way I went back to my room and cried. The man didn't know me from Adam, like he really didn't know most of us. But it was through the music. The music touches people differently. I always liked the Beatles. Okay, I did. I started picking up records at like 5 or 6 years old, so you're talking early 70s for me. I remember picking up a used copy of I Want to Hold Your Hand. I was like 6 or 7, and I dug the sound. I really did. That record exuded joy and excitement. You could feel it in the grooves beyond belief. And yes, okay, it was pop Beatles, alright? As we know, that was the beginning of them. They changed along with the times and the way the world was. And I read books too, you know. I started heavily collecting the Beatles in 1979. I remember that for several reasons. Number one, my record store that was in my town opened up. And when I had allowance money or when I sold other stuff, I would go grab anything Elvis or Beatles related. I remember getting dirty looks. I was in 7th grade. Christmas of '79, roughly, okay? I remember getting dirty looks because we were having a Christmas party in one of my classes, and we were allowed to bring records because they had a record player there. I was the one that brought the Beatles albums. Yeah, I brought 2 Beatles albums with me. Meet the Beatles and something else, I remember that. And I got dirty looks from the kids because it's like, well, it's not new and it's not, you know, fresh, up to date, whatever. Beatles are old. Shut up. I remember telling a kid that too. I said, shut up. You know, how dare you make fun of my music? I don't make fun of your music. And for the Beatles, at age 12, as I was, it made me happy. I was joyful when I heard it, okay? And yes, I remember the solo stuff. I liked most of the solo stuff. Most. I remember getting John Lennon's Mind Games on a 45 at a local bookstore in downtown Crystal Lake when I was 6 because I heard it on the radio. And same thing for Whatever Gets You Through the Night. And the next year later. So let me show you, this is not everything I've got, Beatles or Lennon or other related stuff, okay? I just want to show you some things before I go on more into the story. So I picked this up, like I said. Some of this is going to be reruns for you guys for records, and I apologize in advance. So this is the 1977 Ling a Song release of the Star Club. Now, I know a lot of people frown about this particular album, but you know what? Yes, it wasn't great, but it did show a slice of the Beatles most people did not see. And that would be Hamburg. It would be what it took, the hundreds of performances that they did at the Star Club to season themselves so that they could get to the next level. Just like any other up and coming band, an aspiring band, you got to put in your dues. Star Club, Cavern Club, all that other stuff, they put their dues in, right? It may not be a great audio historical document, but I'm still glad, damn it, that it is here. It gives you a point, okay? So Star Club. This is random stuff. I don't have them really in any order. This is one of the John Lennon albums I did snag early on. Plastic Ono Band, of course. This one here. This album, this is where you start seeing how he is. Okay, the emotions, the feelings that maybe he had to hide previously in the Beatles. You can say what you feel about his love for Yoko and how, in a way, it probably shouldn't. It should have been done a little differently. And what I mean by that is, you know, there should have been a little bit of gap, maybe, between Cynthia and Yoko, but whatever, you know. Yoko is a extremely small percentage. If you want to have a pie chart of why the Beatles broke up, she was a small percentage of why the Beatles broke up, okay? I remember hearing when I was a teenager and in my 20s, oh, Yoko broke up the Beatles. No, Yoko didn't break up the Beatles, okay? Yoko was John's muse. And whether you like her or not, if maybe he didn't have that muse, would we have gotten some, if any, of the solo recordings he did? You know? It's just food for thought is all I'm saying, okay? I was in the same room with Yoko back in the late 80s, actually, at a Woodfield, Illinois art gallery in the Woodfield Mall. I would have gone up to her and paid my respects, so to speak, but like I said, there was two big burly people right in front of her, and like, they kind of intimidated me. Now, I know you're saying, Mighty Psycho, why the hell are you showing George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, which is an excellent George Harrison album. You know, George let it all hang out in this 3-album thing. Well, I have heard and read little bits and pieces that it's a very strong possibility, because of course John liked to play with other musicians, including his Beatle brothers, that John is actually on one of these tracks. Yeah. So you may have a Threedle appearance on the track What Is Life. That's right. George doing his thing, Ringo on the drums. Rumor has it that Lennon was on possibly a third guitar or something, possibly even singing backgrounds. This is at least the guitar part they're saying more strongly than the background vocals for that track. But I think it makes that track extra awesome, in my opinion, considering that is my favorite track off of All Things Must Pass. One of the first that I ever bought, of course it's going to be this album. This is the album that broke it for the U.S. And I was just glad to have it. There is multiple different versions of this album for Beatle collector variations, you know. But, you know, they came along at the right time, out of all honesty, considering, of course, even though I wasn't born until 1967, but based on the climate of things with Kennedy's assassination in November '63, America was in a dark time. And the Beatles, I think, came along at the right time, honestly, to help us through that. Beatles 65. Yes. You know, there's a lot of cool stuff. They put a lot of cool stuff. Of course, Capitol always seeming to butcher, as we'll use this, extra tracks so they could keep pushing extra albums. I wish they would have stayed like the UK counterparts, okay, but whatever. Another one that was a sort of recent acquisition, going back to their 1961 days over in Germany, along with other people's tracks on here. Still, though, I was glad to be able to get a hold of this on MGM. Yes. You know, My Bonnie, you know, Cry for a Shadow, all that stuff, you know. They all had to start somewhere. All the great bands had to start somewhere. And for part of that, it was Tony Sheridan. Speaking of that, let's go to the next one, okay? I've had this for many years. I picked this up for $1.29. $1.29 at this little hole-in-the-wall resale shop in Harvard, Illinois, which, of course, no longer is there. But once again, really neat. John sings, of course, Ain't She Sweet? You know, Sweet Georgia Brown. There's a handful of tracks, and of course, the rest by other fictitious bands on there. Okay, so 1973, Ringo's Ringo was the best Ringo album, in my opinion anyway, because all of them are on there, all right? John, George, Ringo doing I'm the Greatest. But this one here, Rotogravure, I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Here's the front, here's the back. Still sealed, by the way. This would be Lennon's last recording gasp for about 4 years. In early '76, he ended up contributing the song Cooking in the House of Love. And I have also been led to believe that he also does some background instrumentation. Although I think that I'm not sure if that's right or wrong at this point, but for a dose of rock and roll, could have sworn I thought I heard he was in the background for that too. But like I said, so the last gasp for recording until, of course, he came out of retirement. 1986, Capitol issue of John Lennon Live in New York City from 1972 concerts. I still think it's neat. This is in nice minty condition. You know, I would have loved to have seen him live. I really, really would have. Like probably all of us, right? This one I didn't pay the $9.99 for. It was on sale, but probably, honestly, one of my favorite songs that came out from the 1980 sessions, which of course this came out in '84 on Milk and Honey, but nobody told me. This is a promo, by the way. This was, if I remember correctly, was written for Ringo. It said on the demo cassette. I would love to hear Ringo's take on this song. I was told and also read that Nobody Told Me was possibly going to be included in the 1981 Ringo album Stop and Smell the Roses. John was going to go and contribute that along with Life Begins at 40. Lennon was really going to be happy to assist his friend and scheduled studio time in January of '81. Here's a nice one with the blurb sticker. Beatles' second album, that's right. And look, for only $337, was $398. Ooh. Yeah, still in the shrink. Go figure. But just the old days, you know. Another goofy little thing here. Took me years to find it. I got it on a cutout from 1974. Pussycat, starring Harry Nilsson, produced by John Lennon. Just really, really fun stuff. I mean, unfortunately, it could have been a hell of a lot of a better album, honestly. But John's all over this. I think Ringo chimes in once in a while on here. It was actually through this particular album that there's a bootleg out there, and I've heard bits and pieces of it. It's called A Toot and a Snore in '74, and thank God somebody had the tape operator running things. It was Paul McCartney shows up, Paul and Linda show up, Stevie Wonder's there, Harry Nilsson's there. It's kind of goofy. Let's just leave it at that. It's goofy. It's nothing to write home about, but it was just really fun that John and Paul were able to have fun in the studio, basically one last time. Another one of my early Beatle acquisitions, Magical Mystery Tour. You know, the movie, booklet and all too, the movie obviously really wasn't entirely great. I did like the song sequences, but the rest of it, oh well, whatever. But the soundtrack, oh yeah. I love this soundtrack. I've got the British EP version too. And of course, let's throw out what I am next excited for in the Beatle fandom. Now, of course, the nonsense that's going on continually, and that has been for 9 months now. The whole virus thingamajig, okay, threw off the September 2020 50th anniversary viewing of this and pushing it to September 2021. Some people are saying that the extra time they're supposedly working on more towards this. And if that's the case, then fine. But I cannot wait. I can't wait to really see the new cut on this, okay? These guys were tired. They were tired. Based on all accounts, they were just tired. They wanted to do their own thing. And let's face it for 2 seconds, okay? 3 of these gentlemen were together almost daily from 1958 on to when this was recorded in '69. Abbey Road, of course, being recorded after this, which, what an album, right? But I guess if you're hanging around friends for so long daily, for that long, maybe you'd get tired too. It's something I never really thought about until the last couple of years. I know I'm going all over the place, but I wanna throw something out at you here, okay? So I commented about this book, Paperback Writer, from Mark Schipper. Now this was written in 1978, okay? And of course, yes, this is a spoof book. It's partial fact, mostly spoof, okay? But the last chapter or 2 in this book, even though it was done spoofing, okay? And the last chapter or 2 involved the eventual Beatle reunion in February 1979. And the album that they did that landed on Columbia Records, and how disastrous that album was. And the tour was great because people wanted to hear the old stuff. They did not want to hear the new stuff. So why am I bringing up this book? So remember I said I was born in '67, all right? I was only 3, you know, when McCartney pretty much announced, hey, I left the Beatles, even though it was way before that. I was one of those people that clamored for the Beatles to get back together. Oh, who wouldn't, right? Who wouldn't? There was probably millions of people that wanted them to get back together. The thing is after reading this, and there was a little bit of cautiousness in this. You know, when they put that new product out and it wasn't good. Okay, I'm not saying that the 4 of them could not have put out another stellar album in the '80s. Okay, in fact, from several different reports, the Long and Winding Road documentary that Apple Films started over a decade before was just about finished, and Lennon supposedly was talking about going back to England in the spring of '81, because he did tell Aunt Mimi that he was coming over. But supposedly they were going to, and I'm talking about all 4 of them, were going to film a ending shot where they would have been playing incidental music over the credits, and you would have gotten to see 1981 Beatles together on a soundstage or something for a few minutes. I think that would have been a nice ending. But a certain bastard that we know, who I will not mention his name, killed him. So the reason, you know, why I'm talking about the book is this. So everybody that was clamoring for a Beatles reunion, that lived during the Beatles' heyday, the time frame, and got to feel that initial magic, got to see the concerts, things like that, got to buy the albums and see the movies firsthand. What I think was that in the '60s, of course, was a very unique time. It was a very special time. It was unique. It was magical for the people that lived it. And the reason why those people wanted the Beatles to get back together was so that they could relive their youth, relive that joy, that childhood joy, the being in the fourth row of the concerts, maybe going off and you kissed your favorite girl to a song of theirs that was on a radio. You wanted that feeling back. Of course it's nostalgia. That goes for any band. John was the acidic one, wasn't he? But he told it like it was. Sometimes he wasn't as cautious maybe he should have been during the Beatle years. But when the Beatles broke up, he pretty much bared it, didn't he? Politically and in other ways. Through his music and interviews. Once again, though, I will say I was one of those people that was guilty of wanting them to reunite. I wanted to see it. I was a little selfish. I wanted to see it because I didn't get to see it the first time around. I wanted a piece of that previous magic, past glory. Because the music made me happy. I just wanted to see the four people that made it that way, for me. When John died, so did that dream. And so for 40 years, I've kept that, you know, and now, of course, George has been passed for 19 years. But you see, with George dying, I'm not saying I wasn't sad, but we knew sort of it was coming with the cancer. And if he died in 99 when he was stabbed, there would have been more tears flowing. Because once again, a nutjob fan, if he was even a fan, but a nutjob broke in and tried to stab George repeatedly. But he didn't die that time. He died in 01. John got killed because a nutjob, who they thought it was a fan, no. John was, from all intents and purposes, from the interviews I read, he wanted those 5 years of peace and quiet to raise his kid, be with his wife, do what he wanted. He got out of the machine. He got out of the machine, and on his choice, he wanted back in for a little while. If he would have lived, like I said, Beatles would have gotten back together for that little segment, I bet you. Maybe there would have been some friendly camaraderie. That's always a nice feeling, though, isn't it? You know, it's like family reunions. You don't see the uncles or the brothers all the time, but when you get together ever so often, it's okay, right? You remember the good stuff. I think that's maybe what would have happened with those four. I'll tell you something else that I never really told anybody. When I started liking these guys, okay, I knew that John lived in New York City, but I didn't know where, because I was trying to find that out. I think it was around the time of Double Fantasy when that came out. Somehow I caught an article that he lived at this place